For the most important free agent shoe to drop, Woj with the very latest off the very top. And then, big man down. The last 2 days have been very, very bad for Boogie. Wait until you hear how all this is likely to shake out for him now. And as we sit here, are these two the favorites to lead their team to a championship? One member of our crew says yes, there will be vigorous disagreement. All that and more as we get up with you starting right now. Good morning in our usual spot back here in the morning, and delighted to have you with us. Part of our two-a-days. We're here in the morning and in the afternoon all through this free agency. That's Jacoby. He's in love with the Lakers this year. He's out of his mind. We'll get to all that and more. But let's start with the big news. Literally the entire sports world stopped and waiting for the best player in basketball as of this moment to make his decision. The wait continues for Kawhi Leonard to make his free agent choice between the Raptors, the Lakers, and the Clippers. Last night, freshly re-signed Clipper Patrick Beverley was on with SVP talking about Kawhi.
Trying to see, where this Kawhi Leonard thing goes, rumors, whatever that, you can't really control that. But
what do you hear?
I mean, I hear Clippers. I haven't looked in a while. What do you hear?
Well, I mean, there's internet people, and then there's this guy and that guy and the other guy. Like, who knows who any of these people are, man?
Well, good for him. Wherever he decides to go, good for him. If it's with us, then it's on. Yeah, it's on. But if it's not, then, then it's still on.
Somehow I think with Patrick Beverley, it's always on, regardless of the circumstances. And then this guy is still on. He's working on his 40th consecutive hour without sleep. The one and only Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, what can you tell us as of this moment about the very latest with Kawhi in terms of his schedule, meetings, and whatever we know about his plans?
Well, his plan all along was to allow Toronto to go last. They would get the final word with Kawhi Leonard as a courtesy to them. I think the respect he has for the organization and winning a championship there, that they'll get a chance to close with him. And he's out in Los Angeles this week, and his plan was to meet with the Clippers, the Lakers. And, those two teams are, holding on to their salary cap space, watching other players go off the board and waiting, for Kawhi Leonard to make a decision. I'm told he is, he's very much has a willingness to play it out this week, take time to think, and that there's a possibility there may not be a decision until later in the week.
Because there isn't really a rush from his side, obviously. And let's talk for a moment then, if we can, quickly about the Lakers and Clippers. You say they're holding on to their salary cap space, and at this point they might as well, right? Because almost all of the other players they would have been interested in have gone off the board so quickly.
Yeah, like the money that you're going to spend on a player now is probably going to be on a short deal. If either team, whichever team doesn't get them, they're going to want to be back in free agency next year. They're probably not going to take on long-term contracts. But I think, you look at the Lakers and, they see a player like Seth Curry go off the board, 4 years, $32 million in Dallas. That contract may have not been there for him with the Lakers if they want to keep trying to preserve salary cap space, even if it's to push it back into next year.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, stay with me a minute here. We have more we want to get to from you, but let me take this to the table for the first time this morning, and let's talk about Kawhi here. And it's part speculation and part looking at the circumstances. Sean, if you look, does he bring a championship with him wherever he goes? In your mind, Toronto, Clippers, Lakers, wherever Kawhi goes, does that team, in your view, become the favorite?
I think if he goes to the Lakers, yes. I think if he goes back to Toronto, they're in the discussion point. I think if he's with the Clippers, they've got some work to do to be at a championship level, because the roster that he would have around him with the Clippers would be the worst of the three rosters that he could play with. Yet it would be mostly about him and him being the star and the centerpiece to try to get it to a championship level.
Jacoby, it feels sometimes with Kawhi as though everyone is basically guessing, but I know you have a very firm belief of what you think he's going to do.
I do. I think that this delay, he doesn't come out and say anything. It's Kawhi Leonard. He says nothing. But he's in Los Angeles, okay? That says something to me. He hasn't made a decision, although all the other free agents made their decisions very quickly. That says something to me. If he was going to go back to Toronto, he knows the system. He knows the head coach. He knows the city. What are they going to say in the pitch that he doesn't already know? What new information are they going to give him? If he was going to make that decision, he has all the information he needs to have already made it. So the longer it plays out, the longer he stays in Los Angeles, the longer it makes me believe he's going to stay in Los Angeles with the Lakers.
So what you're suggesting is the timing of this leads you to believe he's going to the Lakers, which has been widely speculated in a variety of places. And if so, would you be surprised by that? Knowing what we know of Kawhi, to make that decision, to team up with those two guys, I will admit it will surprise me if he does it. It will not surprise you.
It will not surprise me because I watched him carry this Toronto Raptors team through the playoffs. I watched him put the team on his back, hobbled on one leg. He brought this championship without the help that he would have with the Lakers. I think that, is enticing to him.
Look, his championship legacy is already cemented, right? But I think you have to also look at the makeup of who Kawhi Leonard is. And I've known Kawhi since he's 16 years old. He played at Riverside King High School. He knocked off the McDonald's All-American team that was modern day in the Southern Section Championships in Southern California. He went to San Diego State when he could have gone to UCLA as they jumped in the recruiting world late. He's always been that guy that's wanted to lead the team. And if he goes to LA, it would be the first time in his career, really, where he didn't make a move that he could make, where he was the leader of the team.
I will wait and see. And again, you just heard Woj say it might take a little while. Now, we have Tim Bontemps with us over on our other set with Laura this morning, who was around Kawhi and the Raptors a lot this year. Laura, pick it up from there.
Yeah, as Greeny just said, Tim, we heard Woj say the Raptors, still the plan is for them to get the last meeting with Kawhi. What does that say about the Raptors' chances in your mind?
Well, look, I think the Raptors are going to go into this feeling the same way they did over the past couple months, right? That over the course of this season, they did everything they could to convince Kawhi this was the place for him to be. They built trust with the medical staff. They built trust with Coach Nick Nurse. They built trust with the front office, the way they got Marc Gasol, right? They went out and built a team that could win a title. Kawhi then went out and did it. They went and had the celebratory parade here that we're seeing now. And, going into the free agency period here, they are going to get the last meeting. At least that's the plan, as Adrian said. And they feel good about their chances to go say to him, hey, this is where you should be.
Yeah, it's hard not to read some of the tea leaves. You've seen Kawhi in the Blue Jays jersey. We've seen other things as well, so who knows exactly. But when you think about a contract scenario as it relates specifically to the Raptors, what do you think could be most likely for him?
Honestly, I think you can't rule anything out. Yeah. You could do a 1+1, right, where he'd get a chance to go back in the market next summer. He could do a 2+1 where he'd get a chance to go in 2 years when he'd be eligible for the biggest, 10-year plus max salary. Or he could sign the 5-year max this summer. He'd get the absolute most amount of money he could for a guy who missed almost all of last season with injuries, right? So really it's going to be, I think, up to him to say, what do you want, Kawhi, from Toronto's perspective? And whatever he chooses, they'll be happy to give him.
Yeah, you got to think at the end of the day, Masai Ujiri is so important here. We continue to remain on Kawhi watch, but let's get back to the Warriors, Greeny.
Yeah, the team that they beat in the finals last year, obviously a completely new look for Golden State going forward. We know they're losing Kevin Durant to the Nets, but they're not sitting on their hounds. They're throwing in the towel. Klay Thompson, as you know by now, agreeing to a 5-year, $190 million max extension. Then later, yesterday, we get word from Woj, and this was important because a lot of people didn't think they could do it. Kevon Looney is returning to the Warriors. 3 years, $15 million, averaged 7 points in the playoffs last year, but is an important piece. All this coming after Woj reported that Golden State and Brooklyn finalizing a sign and trade that'll send D'Angelo Russell to the Warriors on a 4-year, $117 million max deal. So with D'Angelo Russell in place, and as they await the return of Klay Thompson, this is basically the look at what the potential starting lineup is for the Warriors. The rest of the roster is quite thin outside of Sean Livingston. Not a lot of proven talent on that bench either. And so this is where I wanted to bring Woj back into the conversation, because arguably the biggest name left in free agency, Woj, after Kawhi Leonard, is Boogie Cousins, who played with Golden State last year, and we saw the ups and downs with him coming back from the injury. What is the latest and where he stands as far as free agency is concerned?
Greeny, his market has been really thin, and I think his hope had been that teams who had significant salary cap space, who missed out on their number one priority, their number two priority, might turn to him even on a 1-year deal, and he'd be able to get a $12, $15, $18, $20 million annual deal. That money simply isn't out there for Boogie Cousins, and certainly it looks like he'll be back on a 1-year deal somewhere, and probably even below the mid-level exception.
Can we just, for the fans who don't know exactly what that is, what are we talking in terms of dollars there?
Well, there's different exceptions. There's an exception at $9+ million. He was on what's called, I think, the taxpayer exception at $5+ last year with Golden State. He could get a raise off of that if he were to return there. But you're looking at a deal certainly at least south of $10 million a year for a player who just a couple of years ago thought he was on his way to a $200 million max deal, was an all-NBA player. But a combination of the injuries that have taken a toll on him, he hasn't been able to play a complete season over the last couple of years with injuries. And, and I think questions about how teams would want to use him, build around him. He's still an immensely talented player, and I do think a year with health would certainly increase his value around the league. People don't question his talent.
Yeah, he's still pretty young. Woj, that's so well done. Thank you very much. This certainly is not what I think he was expecting. Laura and Tim both know DeMarcus Cousins really well. Laura, pick it up from there.
Yeah, so Tim, when you think about what you just heard Woj talk about, and this is something that we've been examining here, the fact that even a couple years ago, Boogie was in position to get a max deal, and now where his situation sits, what comes to mind to you?
I mean, it's just an unbelievable 18 months for him, right? You go back to when he's playing in New Orleans with Anthony Davis. He looks like he's going to make get a max contract from the Pelicans that summer. He hurts his Achilles. He's out for the summer. He goes to the Warriors. It's, hey, we got 5 All-Stars playing in Golden State. It's going to be this great thing, right? Then he tears his quad in the second playoff game, first time he'd ever been in the postseason. Comes back and kind of gamely plays in the finals, but struggles then. And now he looks at a marketplace where there just aren't a lot of homes for him. And as Adrian said, it's hard to see where the payday he thought he was getting is going to come from.
It's weird because I think we all, and maybe everybody's guilty of this, forget how talented Boogie is. To Woj's point and yours, a lot of it has to do with him being healthy and his availability. But if you're Boogie, could you have seen this coming? Because you and I both know he is not happy about this.
No, it's hard to imagine he could have felt this way, right? Like you go into this summer when the Knicks have cap space, the Nets have cap space, the Warriors could have brought him back, right? Now they make this sign and trade. They don't have the money to even bring him back. He can't go back there unless it's maybe on a minimum deal, right? Which is never anything you would have thought about. And to me, I think he's probably watching this Kawhi Leonard situation as closely as anybody because the one team that could theoretically give him a decent contract now is the Lakers. If Kawhi goes there, that's obviously off the board. But if he doesn't, they have $32 million in cap space that maybe they could give him some of.
Yeah, and if you are the Lakers, obviously you're hoping for Kawhi, but Boogie wouldn't be half bad either. Greeny, continue on with the Warriors, though.